Okay, thank you once again, Carole, for joining me today and agreeing to do this. First of all, how are you and how have you been throughout the season?
I'm very well, thank you, and coping really very well in these crazy times, and taking time to learn, to have some time to think, to have some time to walk, amid the awful humanitarian crisis that's going on. You know, we can take some joy from it, and seeing the sunshine and being able to go out for a walk is just wonderful.
Excellent. Now, so many people are taking this differently, even though we are all in the same storm, should I say, but our response is kind of different. What I would like to know is how best you still stay focused, how you want to keep on growing and still live on purpose. How do you do that in a time like this?
Well, it's challenging, staying focused when you've suddenly gone from, for so many people, from a very sort of disciplined environment, and you know what you're doing, to not having that discipline, not having that structure, is a challenge. But with that challenge comes the challenge of doing something differently. So I think the first thing, you know, in trying to hold your focus is first to accept that things are different. And that might sound obvious, but until we really do cognitively accept that things are not going to change for the next day, for the next week, for the next month, whatever the period is, and therefore I need to think differently. And creating that shift in your mental thinking processes, if you like, can then put you into a better position to start focusing. So it's, you know, we go through the classic resistance to change. First of all, there's the denial. Oh, this can't be happening. This is not happening. This is not real. And then we, you know, some people go through anger, some people go through hurt, upset, whatever people are going through. It's important to recognize that things are different and to acknowledge it and not to fight it. Because by not fighting it, you can find a different way forward. And then it's about planning. So, okay, so I don't have my normal structure. So what can I have? What can I do? And start to list out things that you can do. And things that will give you some joy. You know, one of the things I've heard a lot about from people during this time of COVID crisis is an expectation that they feel they have to learn something, they have to do something different. And I would say, you know, be kind to yourself. That there is no expectation that the world is putting on you beyond that expectation that you put on yourself.
True. Yeah, because many people are saying, and it's true, that adversity is kind of like the foundation for growth and new ideas. But once you kind of accept and begin to re-strategize or restructure your life in a way, accepting what you can do and what you can't do, and as you said, be kind to yourself. You don't force yourself to learn 5 languages because you are expected to be different at the end of an adversity. But I think once you do that table, I think, well, I can do what I can do, you will see growth in yourself and you will grow in a different way, not necessarily how everybody seems to be going. I believe in that truth very well. But Carole, how can you know you are responding to this crisis and not just reacting to it? What's the difference?
That's a good question. I would say it's about your preparedness. We know a reaction. A reaction comes attached to an emotion.
Okay.
So if we are reacting, we will know we're reacting because of the way we feel. If we're not feeling positive, if we're not feeling energized, we know, that's our reactionary response to a situation. Yeah. So how can we be proactive in these times? And for me, it's about putting in place a structure, not letting the alarm clock go off and you think, nah, I don't need to get up just yet. But treating your day as if each day is a new goal. So set the time that you intend to get up in the morning and get up. And have a focus for the day, whatever that focus is. If for students, if that focus is going to be, I need to learn a new model, a new theory, or I need to read a case study, that need will be there because the education doesn't stop.
True.
And so it's about having a plan and then giving yourself little presents during the day. So have your structure, get up in the morning, get dressed, I would say. A lot of people say, oh, it really doesn't matter, I'll go around in my sloppy joes, etc. Well, that feels comfortable, but we all know that if we dress differently, we think differently.
Yeah.
And create a space. For some people, this will be very difficult, but I believe it's possible always to create a little space, which is your, if you like, your learning sanctuary. The place that you go in the day to learn, as opposed to the place you go in the day to relax. Okay. Even if you've only got a tiny space and you have a sofa. It might sound crazy, but have one end of the sofa, that's your learning end, your learning space, and then you move to the other end of the sofa.
For relaxing.
And it creates a shift in your thinking, or it can do. So, and give yourself little presents. Remember to stay hydrated. Remember to eat sensibly, but also have a little bit of what you enjoy. I'll share one of my little weaknesses. One of my little weaknesses is these little mini Cadbury cream eggs, and they're shockingly sweet. But halfway through the day, I'll make myself a cup of coffee. I'll take myself away from my laptop, and I'll have a little Cadbury cream egg, and I'll just look out into the garden, up to the sky, just take my my view off somewhere differently and breathe. And boy, do I enjoy that coffee. And then I come back and I'm refreshed.
I think those are tips I can take myself, because I realize there's a difference when I'm taking my coffee in my room as to standing outside and just watching outside. The feeling is different, having the sun on your face.
Yes.
It's kind of refreshing. I never thought of it as a gift, but it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice. So, Carole, what kind of questions should we be asking ourselves in times like this so that we know that we are on this journey to grow? It's like a checklist, like an audit we are doing. What kind of questions can we ask ourselves?
Well, it's questions around, what can I do that will make me feel good about the way I improve myself? One of the things that this COVID crisis does give us is more of a level playing field. We are all in the same situation. So there are opportunities for us to really think differently, and not to feel that we're constantly in competition with other people. The only person we're in competition with during these times is ourselves. So, be your best competitor. Think about the things that you want to improve. Perhaps you want to improve the way you speak. Perhaps you want to improve your posture. Perhaps you want to improve your understanding of something, of a theory, of a model, whatever it is. It really does come back to the basics of have a plan, have a goal for each day, and really know what success is going to look like at the end of the day.
Mm.
And don't make the goal so big you can't achieve it in the day. We all, we can have that big goal.
Yeah.
That I'm doing my PhD at the moment, so my big goal is to get my PhD. But I have to have so many small goals in those steps to get the big goal. Yeah. So it is really breaking it down, and having a plan for the week, and then break that plan for the week down into a daily plan, and then break that daily plan down into a morning and an afternoon. Because then you're setting these little micro goals. So whatever it is, as a student or as someone who's not studying, but who we're all still learning, whatever your focus is, make sure you have a focus, because without it, we are lost.
Exactly. Because then you don't even know where you're going, and it can direct your goals.
Yeah.
So then you're saying it's relevant to set goals. Sorry, you were saying something.
Yeah. It's very relevant to set goals. Some days we're just not going to be able to achieve them. And as long as that one day doesn't morph into the next day and the next day and the next day, so if you haven't achieved what you needed to do in that particular day, be kind to yourself and accept that maybe you're just not in the right space. But be mindful that doesn't stretch into the next day. So it is about giving yourself these little gifts, the little gift of a cup of coffee and looking out of the window, breathing differently. And if things are just not going your way for that day, decide that you're then going to do something differently. Maybe it will be to read a book. Maybe it'll be to watch a film. Maybe it'll be to make yourself something nice to eat. It's so important to be kind to yourself on this new journey at the moment. And to remember that, we are all on this level playing field. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And so assuming, if we think about students, assuming students have access to Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Everybody has exactly the same opportunity to learn. And we don't need to feel that we're in competition with anybody else other than ourselves.
Yeah. So in a time, in a lockdown, for example, how can you still add value to yourself?
It does come back to having those goals. So, if we think about the life of a student, what a student is doing at the moment, what a student is working towards as their end goal of wanting to achieve their degree. A question that is bound to come up now into the future by an employer is, so what did you do during lockdown? We need to watch out for that question. So we don't want to be caught out. What did we do during lockdown? Well, not very much. We can develop ourselves professionally by imagining we're being asked that question in an interview 6 months, a year hence, and then think, well, what would I, if I wasn't in lockdown, what do I wish I could have done? And then make sure you do it. So look at what it is you need in terms of your skills. We don't really need to be told what we're good at and what we're not good at. We know that. Sometimes we have an inflated sense of what we are good at. And, we do need to manage that. We need to be realistic and authentic. But preparing ourselves during this COVID time means that we will be ready to emerge from it and be able to answer that question. What did you do during lockdown? Well, I improved my public speaking skills, by making sure that I joined lots of webinars and making sure I asked questions. The webinars I joined had an impact on me because, and then they would say what the impact was. They had a relevance to me because of the subject that I'm studying. And so you're then able to give some concrete and some real and authentic examples of what you did during lockdown.
Interesting. Are there some general skills we should be looking forward to developing during the lockdown? I know that skills are kind of, should I say, dependent on what professional, which area you want to go to, but there are some general ones you should be looking at. Is it adaptability or leadership, or what kind of skills?
Absolutely. I mean, if there are so many skills, if we do a quick Google, what do employers want? Well, employers are looking for, I refer to them as labels, adaptability, resilience, grit, determination, leadership, self-management, motivation, etc. These are just labels. So be curious, what do those labels mean for you? And if you know you're not someone that can easily adapt, then be curious about yourself. What is it that's making you resistant to adapting? And generally, it's a mindset. So by really thinking about our mindset, by thinking about the mindset we would like to have, perhaps we're sitting at home thinking, I wish I could be more positive. I wish I could be more resilient. Well, wishes are lovely, but they're not going to help you. Action will help you. So what is it that we can do to improve our resilience? Well, just look at what you're doing on a daily basis. If you don't have a structure to the day, then you're not really adapting to the situation. If you don't have a structure and you don't have the goals, then you're not practicing resilience in overcoming the situation. There are so many opportunities for personal development in these times, and it does require us, as I often say, to dig deep. And by that I mean we dig deep into ourselves. And keep reminding yourself of that question. What did you do during COVID? We don't want to feel, when we get asked that question, that we've somehow failed because we did nothing. So look at the skills employers are wanting. And if you're someone that is looking to develop your own business, these will be the skills that you as an employer want and you will want to see in yourself. And they're all the transferable skills, and we can reduce them down into resilience, adaptability, and problem solving, if you like. Every day we have a problem to solve, and that problem is, how are we surviving through COVID? So put the problem on the table and work out what your biggest issues are, and then speak to somebody. We've all got access through social media, through the telephone, through this medium that we're on, through Teams. We don't need to be alone, and we shouldn't be alone in our learning and development journey. So look for people who are role models.
Okay.
Go onto LinkedIn, check out your own profile on LinkedIn, and look at profiles of people that you admire. And what is it you can do to get closer to their profile? Okay. So it really is about being curious, wanting to learn and being curious, and doing it. There's no substitute for doing it. There really isn't.
Sure. You talked about connecting with people, but how do you do that in this time where you don't have the physical advantage? How can you make meaningful connections and networking that could benefit you in the future and not sound weird or overburden or something?
Yeah, good question. I've been doing quite a lot of networking online, and in a way, it's people have more time, not necessarily endless hours of time, but people have more time. So I would say always know why you're wanting to contact somebody. There's absolutely nothing wrong in contacting people you don't know, providing you know why you're contacting them. And if you're contacting someone and just saying, oh, I looked at your profile, I think you might be able to help me in the future, at that point, step away from your laptop. Don't do it. Why would they help you?
Yeah.
You might find some generosity of spirit, but imagine people are always getting those messages. What's going to motivate somebody to help if they don't know you? So what is it you can offer them? Perhaps it's a connection. Perhaps it's information you have. Or perhaps it's just an interest in the same area. But whatever it is, make it explicit. So if I use myself as an example, I've taken the time to look at a particular area connected with my PhD, look at a particular area of my study and people who are in specific sectors that I wanted to contact but wouldn't have had time previously. I've researched them, I've looked on LinkedIn, I've looked at the connections we have in common, whether they're second connections or third connections, it doesn't matter. I've looked for a reason to be in touch with them, and then I've sent them a message in LinkedIn. Always use the note function, is what I would say. So when you're networking in these times, when you found somebody on LinkedIn and you're not already connected to them, and you send them an invitation, there is an option to add a note. Always add a note is what I would say. And that note should let the person know why you're contacting them. What's motivated you to contact them? And if what's motivated you to contact them is they can help me, step away. Because it may be that you are looking for them to help you, but you wouldn't just walk up to somebody in the street and go, oh, hello, I think you can help me. You wouldn't do it. So don't do it online. Introduce yourself. Let them know why you're contacting them, and then be patient. Wait for a response. And if you don't get a response, let's say after a week's time, then see if there's a different way of contacting them, and that might be through a webinar. Perhaps they are in a forum that you're also interested in participating in. Join the webinar. Make sure you're asking a question. Bring yourself to their visibility. And then you can go back onto LinkedIn and follow it up. So there is no substitute for just doing it. There really isn't.
Interesting. Those are valuable tips, actually. Thank you for that. So most students were expecting to have a summer internship. That's all we're all looking forward to. But unfortunately, everything is now online, and only just a fraction of companies are doing online internships. I think because it's all new, many companies haven't adopted that or implemented that system yet, and that's understandable. But for us, one question is, how do you continue to develop yourself professionally? Is there a way self-development can influence professional development? Or did we even need internships in the first place? Or because after this, we are jumping into the market or the business world. What's happening?
Yes, it's a good question. How do you close that gap when you had the expectation of doing an internship? It's a good question. And again, it comes back to developing yourself personally. If you develop yourself personally, and you think about how you want to develop your self-confidence, your ability to speak publicly, your ability to problem solve, to analyze, to think creatively, we have so much access to being able to improve ourselves through the medium of the internet. So think about, as a student, think about what it is you most wanted to achieve during your internship, and be honest with yourself. Because generally speaking, most students look to do an internship with the hope of getting a job at the end of it. And that's not unreasonable at all. Of course, that's what you hope. But that's not necessarily going to be the case. So if you move that hope to one side, what else inspired you to want to do an internship? What were you looking to learn? And if you're thinking, actually, I hadn't really thought about it like that, then start making a list. If I was in an internship, what would I most like to learn? And once you've made your list, perhaps a finance student would want to do an internship in a finance company because they want to understand more about auditing, for example. Well, you can still do that online. Take a course. Be very proactive with your tutors. Be curious about their knowledge and seek their knowledge out. And I've said this before. Join forums. Look for opportunities to go onto Zoom meetings, to go onto webinars, and join them and make sure you have questions ready to ask. And then, each day you're not in your internship, you're doing something different. See if you can apply an approach to what you're doing differently. So for our students, I know a lot of our students who are not doing an internship, they're now doing a simulation. What is it you can learn about yourself in doing that simulation? It comes back to being curious about yourself. Do you do a strengths and weaknesses audit on yourself? What am I good at? What am I not so good at? Where are my opportunities? What are my threats? Is a threat actually, I'm not really very disciplined? Or is the threat, I don't have enough knowledge? Or, whatever the threat is, be willing to face it, and be willing to be honest about it, and be willing to do something about it. So if it's I recognize I'm not very disciplined, it's the easiest thing in the world to put a structure in place and follow that structure. It's not easy if you don't have the motivation to do it. So ask yourself, if I'm asked that question, what did you do during COVID? And how did you survive? Because you couldn't do an internship. What did you do instead? I keep coming back to this. There is no substitute for the proactivity that we have in ourselves to come out, to be curious about ourselves, to be honest about ourselves, to make a list, to ask friends and family for their views. There are all sorts of tools online. There's the Johari window, there's Belbin, there are all sorts of tools that you can access to start thinking about how you would ask people for feedback. That's one of the most important aspects of an internship. You're in that physical environment, and there's no real substitute for that. So we have to go to the next best substitute, and that is to make sure that you are providing yourself with opportunities to get feedback from people and be willing to accept the feedback. If we're not willing to accept the feedback, we have to ask ourselves, why are we asking for the feedback? What are we really looking for? And if what we're really looking for is somebody to validate us, the person that will validate you is yourself. So, you know, by this stage, you're probably getting the idea, I hope, that there is no substitute for holding yourself to account.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything more exciting than that. When you're honest enough to do that, great. I now know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get up early in the morning or at whatever time you choose to get up. I have a plan for the day. These are the clothes I'm wearing for the day. These are the treats that I'm going to give myself for the day. And this is what I'm going to learn for the day. It's going to be a good day.
And it will be a good day. So, Carole, what I find with most people when we're selecting our final term decisions, because most of us couldn't do internship, was, to me, we went for the easiest choice or the ones that we can't be less bothered with. Some comments were like, well, I have enough issues, I have enough troubles with COVID already. Why should I top it up with a difficult module? And maybe that's an easy way out, or that is their way of dealing with this whole situation. But what would be your challenge to them in order to grow?
Well, I would say separate the two areas. The challenges that you have with COVID from a physical perspective, you know, some people will have health challenges. Some people will be caring for others. Some people will be continuing to try and study and looking after young children. You know, accept that we are in challenging times and be kind to yourself as a consequence and work within the limits of what you can do. But that said, there are things that you can do. And I would encourage you to think actively. None of us are in the situation we would necessarily choose to be in. And if we think like that, you know, we are all in, we really are all in this together. So if a student is thinking, oh, well, I've already got too many challenges, now trying to do a difficult module on top of that is just too much. I would say go and find a mirror and go and take a long, hard look at yourself in the mirror and have a conversation with yourself. What is it you want to achieve? Realistically, what can be achieved? And, you know, you can always get some whiteboard marker or some lipstick or whatever and just write it on the window. What am I still able to achieve? What can't I achieve? And what do I want? You know, students take their studies so they do their degrees so that they can get that qualification, they can get that piece of paper. But it's so much more than a piece of paper. The journey, the learning journey that you go on is determined by how much effort you're willing to put into it. And that effort necessarily has to be balanced with the environment that you're in. And so, you know, if we have students that are struggling with the Wi-Fi, or we have students who are living in a large community household, of course that's going to be challenging. But get everybody on board with that, the whole family. Share with the family what it is you need to do each day and ask for their respect and their commitment to enable you to do that. And then make sure that once you've got their respect and commitment for it, you actually do it. Otherwise, they're probably going to be quite disappointed if you're not doing it. So, yeah, these are difficult times, but they are, I wouldn't say exciting times, that's the wrong word, but they are times of opportunity. Opportunity for us to be curious about ourselves. What can we do? What can't we do? What do we want to do? And above all, an opportunity to be brutally honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
And tuck in a bit of kindness there.
That's amazing. So last 2 questions, Carole, for you. So it said that adversity kind of doesn't add onto your skills, sort of, it only reveals your character. So how can you be sensitive in a time like this? I know that coaches normally direct you and help you kind of notice your strengths and your weaknesses, and you realize what you can do, but now you don't have the opportunity. How can you be sensitive to yourself and notice, oh, I didn't know I was good at this, but now look at what I'm doing, and kind of grow on that?
I think it's, some of it comes back to that audit of what it is you want to do, and sometimes we don't know, and so asking ourselves the how question, and in coaching we call it the breakthrough question. So what is it? What is it you're looking to do? And a breakthrough question in coaching usually starts with a how. And so if you're a student and you're sitting at home and you're thinking, how can I develop myself? That's a great first question. Then it needs to be followed with a, well, what do I want to develop? If we just stay with the how can I develop myself, it may feel like we're in some sort of a snowstorm and there is just too much to think about. So be specific.
Okay.
How can I develop myself? What is it I want to develop? And often, I will hear people say, well, everything. And so I would then ask the question, what is everything? Well, everything. And then it would be, what is everything to you? And if you're not able to stay on that everything, it forces you to think about what is everything, because we can't do everything in that sense. So ask yourself the breakthrough question, how can I? And then follow that with whatever your question is. And then follow that with a what question. What do I need to do to help me answer the breakthrough question? And then keep breaking it down so that you've got this, if you like, this mind map written out. And then choose which piece of the puzzle, which piece of the mind map you're going to work on towards answering that how question, that breakthrough how question. And seek help. Talk to people. Talk to friends, talk to family, talk to colleagues, and let them know what you're doing. I think it's quite exciting if you contact people and say that you're going through some self-coaching, and here's the question I'm asking myself, and share it with them and bring other people into your journey.
Interesting. Self-coaching. That's amazing. Thank you very much, Carole, for your time. I really, really appreciate this, and so many tips. I think we could go on and on, but what would you say finally to us in helping us develop ourselves to be ready for future professions or the future in general? How do we best express ourselves?
Have courage.
Mm.
Have hope. And have a commitment to being able to answer that question. How did you cope in COVID times? And then go back to digging into that courage and hope. We will get through this.
Mm-hmm.
We will grow stronger. And we will go stronger if we have an intention to grow stronger.
So intention is very important. And then we should have courage and hope and commitment to ourselves, not to anyone else, to grow.
Well, you know, it isn't that you would be not committed to other people, but
Okay.
you are your self-coach in this situation. And your commitment in terms of your self-development has to start with you. And you will find if you go on this journey and you invite other people into your journey and share with them your plan, it may inspire them to also have a plan. And now you've got some self-development buddies. And you are all working on your own development, but now you're growing this community of self-development buddies. And that I think could be quite exciting.
Yes. Thank you very much, Carole.
You're very welcome.
And hope to talk to you soon.
Indeed. Well, I wish you good health, good fortune, and great hope for the future.
Wish you same.